call the meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, we didn't discourage her. She did well.
Good evening, department heads and guests, and those watching on cable this evening for our budget hearing. First order of business, anyone here for public comment? Okay. Mr. Belaconis.
Hi, board members. What I wanted to do is just go through a budget presentation. I want to thank the department heads who were here this evening, who all showed up, and the board and committee members who were also here. As you know, the board has an annual budget hearing. We will go through the budget recommendations this year for fiscal 2013. And I'd like to just have an opportunity to make a presentation to the board and hear if there's any questions from the board or the public. If you'd like, I can proceed.
Yes, maybe we want to dim some of the lights or half of them.
Sorry.
Oh, I thought you
It just flew. No.
Okay.
I was throwing some.
Okay.
Sean, don't fall asleep.
Shh. Good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Belaconis. I'm the town administrator. And what I'd like to do is welcome Elizabeth Paveo, who's our finance director. This is her first budget. I want to thank her for her role in the budget process, and I also want to thank the department heads who participated and have been very effective in terms of assisting us in getting a balanced budget put together for the Board of Selectmen. What I want to do is just review up front what the budget goals were for 2013. And what we've done in the past is we've maintained conservative revenue assumptions. That's really critical. It's one of the things that I think has separated North Reading from another number of other communities that have had budgetary problems. And in this instance, the conservative revenue practices continue for this particular budget. Maintenance of municipal services, what does that mean? That means jobs and programs. And my experience is when jobs go, they don't come back. So to the extent we can preserve employment, that employment supports the services that the public receive, and that's a critical budget goal that we all try to achieve throughout the process. It's not always possible, but I think you'll agree that North Reading has done a pretty good job in terms of maintaining the quality of services that it has. The third goal is similar to what we had seen a year ago, and that's continued emphasis building our critical reserves to deal with a deterioration of the economy. The fourth goal was maintenance of savings through affordable health insurance plans. You'll note that this year the health insurance increase is 5%. Last year, just for perspective, it was about a decrease of about 1% in rates. And if you look back at the history, North Reading and other communities seen rates increases in the range of 12 to 16%. So it's pretty remarkable that we've gone from that to the point where we're able to better control our health insurance costs. The next item that we have is development of alternate revenue sources. This has always been a goal of the Board of Selectmen. Municipal government is somewhat restricted, but I think as we go through the budget, you'll find that we've been able to tap into some new revenue sources. The next goal is unique to this year, and it says position the town's finances favorably for bond rating review. We have a $108 million school project that's coming up, and it's critical that we react with our budget decisions in a way that puts forward the best possible situation for the town to obtain the lowest interest rates possible for its upcoming bond rating review. And I apologize for the use. I have my back turned here. And the last goal is to continue the budget collaboration that has been in place between the town and school decision makers, the department heads who are here, and the selectmen and the finance committee. And that group, to the extent we all work together and try to achieve the same objective, is really critical. And it's one of the things, again, I want to compliment North Reading on. I think the town has done a really good job of that. So the first slide that I have here is similar to certification of free cash. Once the balance sheet gets submitted, it gets certified by DOR as retained earnings. As the chairman mentioned, it can then be voted out at an article at town meeting in the fall.
Thank you.
Any questions from the audience, from our department heads? Yes.
I have a question.
Can you go to the microphone just to help?
And identify himself.
Jim DeCola, building inspector. I'm also the president of the NUE, the Non-Employees Union, employees. And I have a question on the elimination of the merit increases in buybacks. If all the contracts have been settled, how can we then eliminate the merit increases in buybacks, the vacation buybacks?
Mr. Beliconis?
Merit increases are discretionary. So in my judgment, when economic times are difficult, we ask people to pull up their bootstraps and do the best they possibly can and cooperate with us. So we don't simply have money to be able to fund merit increases, Jim. On the buybacks, that's vacation buyback, not sick leave. So that's vacation, which is we want people to use their vacation time. So people have between now and December of this year to utilize their vacation time. We do not presently have the money to be able to afford to pay that. We're not taking away anyone's vacation time. What we're saying to them is use it, because we don't have the money to be able to pay it. Next year in this situation, when we sit down and we try to balance the budget, we'll make it a priority to try to pay those things.
Any other questions? Mrs. Bailey?
Good evening. Marcy Bailey, 21 Duane Drive. I was just curious, Mr. Valiakonis, you said that the capital stabilization fund will be left with a larger balance than what you're taking out. Could you tell us where the monies are coming from to go into the account? Sure. Thank you.
As I mentioned before, the present balance in the Capital Stabilization Fund is $485,764. So we propose the following transfers at special town meeting. From employee benefits, the sum of $300,000. From cell tower revenue, $200,000. From property and liability insurance, $119,000. From supplemental state aid, $108,588. From town-owned land, $11,690. That will give us a balance, all those numbers added together, $1,225,042. We'll take out $600,000 at town meeting, which will leave us a balance of $625,042 to close the year and start the new fiscal year.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, I think so.
You want to read it one more time?
Where this year we depended upon it very heavily, and next year we're intending to balance the budget with fewer of those dollars. So that's what the intent of that is. The numbers on the bottom just illustrate what the total budget is, what the comparison is from this year, $50,689,000, to the proposed budget, which is $52,135,000. And you'll see a breakdown of fixed costs broken down by the town and the schools for both of those different years. So, quickly, I told you that state aid, we have used the House number, and the House number provides an additional $108,000 in state aid for unrestricted or general government aid, and an additional $102,840 for educational aid. So our revenue plan and our budget plan is based upon those numbers becoming reality. And we certainly hope that through the efforts of our representative and senator that those numbers do pan out. These are really the significant changes that we've made in the budget. I don't want to, it's not necessary to touch upon all of them, but I think it's important to mention some of the key assumptions that we've made. We've increased our motor vehicle excise tax by $92,000, and we've increased our local meals occupancy revenue by $25,000. Those are what we consider to be conservative assumptions. The other things on the bottom of this list are the other things that are being done to balance the budget. One-time use of free cash, $405,723. going toward expenses for both the town and the school, one-time costs. A draw from the capital stabilization fund of $600,000. So that's the debt capital stabilization fund. We'll talk a little bit more about that. $321,675 from ambulance revenues, and I put BLS because presently we bring in about $400,000 a year in ambulance revenues on BLS services, which is basic life support. We intend to offer advanced life support, but we have not calculated any of those revenues in order to balance the budget. Just simply BLS revenues. Cell tower revenue. Town's done a pretty good job over the years of building new cell towers. I don't know if it provides any better reception. I still drive around and find dark spots all over the place. But the good news is it's one of those non-traditional revenue sources that we've been able to grow. And in the past, we've taken about $165,000 and applied it toward the budget. We're taking a little bit more this year. The last two items deal with the solid waste budget. We have a solid waste reserve fund. And what we want to do is use about $60,000 of that to balance the budget. And then the last thing, we want to use some of the revenues that come in from the fees collected from sanitation to offset some of the salaries in the DPW to the tune of about $15,000. It represents 5% of the salary of the Public Works Director, the town engineer, and the clerical staff. Not big money, but all of these things get grouped together to create a balanced budget. So, where do we stand today? Fixed costs. We have no shortfall. We've funded all of our fixed costs for next year. General government, we've funded all of our general government costs for next year, including the programs that the Board of Selectmen has established as their priorities. The schools still have a small shortfall. It's not unusual that the schools would have a small shortfall at this year, and it says the school department is working on recommendations to close the available funding gap. So we are very close to having this thing balanced at this point. But the main focus of today's discussion is not to talk about the schools, it's to talk about the town. And that's what I intend to do. So, let me give you a little bit of an idea of what we have available for reserves. If you do a quick add up of those numbers, it's about $3.5 million. It's a lot of money. And I think the town has done pretty well in terms of building its reserves up over the years. I mentioned to you before, we have $515,000 in free cash. We're going to take out a little bit of that to balance the budget. We have $1.7 million in our stabilization fund. We're not using any of that. We have a capital stabilization fund with a balance of $485,000. We're taking out $600,000. Okay? The logic of that is we're putting a lot of money into that account at the special town meeting, so that we will have a larger balance in the capital stabilization fund a year from now than we have today. So that fund, even though we're going to draw $600,000 out of it, we'll have a bigger balance a year from now. The water stabilization fund, MTBE, $371,000.